A list of sensitive themes and topics included in this episode can be found in the episode description. Welcome to This Guy Sucked, the show where we prove that it's never too late to have haters and you can't libel the dead. I'm your host, Dr. Claire Aubin, and I'm a historian, writer, and most importantly, certified hater. On this show, we talk about people from throughout history. It makes me laugh every time I say that. I feel like it's wild that I have a job hating on people, and people pay me US dollars.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's actually a career path that more people should be pursuing.
I'm just saying, there are so many openings in the field. On this show, we talk about people from throughout history with legacies that need a little updating. Whether it's because of their politics, their behavior, or their impact on society and culture, these guys actually kind of sucked. And we bring in a new scholar every week to tell us why. But today, we're doing a little switcheroo, and I'm going to be the scholar. So with me today is Akilah Hughes, who is a writer, a comedian, a podcaster, someone you've probably seen on television. She's the host of a weekly pop culture and news show from Courier Newsroom called How Is This Better?, talking about the way things are going and if they are better. We were just saying this before we started recording. Are things usually better?
Pretty much no. Pretty much never. I think anyone could have guessed. It's a 50-50, but it's actually more like 90-10. It's never better.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Akilah.
Yeah, welcome to the show. So normally this is the moment where I say something like, what's your favorite archive? Or what time period is your favorite? Because normally you would be the historian. But instead, I'm just going to ask, and also looking back at this question, this is a crazy thing for me to have written. If someone, gun to your head, was like, you have to do a PhD on something, this totally normal and reasonable scenario, you must do a PhD. What would you dedicate many brain cells and years of your life to studying if you could?
Ooh, wow. What a beautiful question. This sounds insane given all of that you've introduced me with. It's completely out of left field. But I would say like interior design.
Hell yeah.
feel like all I watch on YouTube are videos of people renovating their small apartments in their homes and making them beautiful. And I think that like throughout most of history, from what I can tell, people just really didn't have the time or money to care about that sort of thing. Like if you look at pictures from the Dust Bowl, they weren't so concerned about the patterns in the room. They were trying to keep dirt out of the house.
Sure.
So now that we're all so privileged, I think it's interesting the way people choose to design their homes. And also like, I'm curious about how often people can redesign them like realistically. And so, it's sort of talking about the sort of quarter turns of styles coming in and out of fashion, millennial gray, which is really Gen X gray, but, we're getting blamed for it.
Sure.
All of these things. I think that I could spend a lot of American dollars in a school learning, listening and learning, and then writing to the ends of the earth about what's going on inside people's houses.
You know, what's funny is that if I went back to school and did something different and someone said, also in my case, gun to my head, you can't be a historian, I would also do interior design. So I love that that's your answer. And you're actually, I think, the third person on the show to say that. It's actually a very...
we all just want a cool house.
We all just want a cool house. We all just want to live somewhere nice. And I also think, especially for like, I would extend this past historians, but because you also, like what you're working on is also deeply depressing. Being able to be like, I just live in this nice house that makes me feel good and is cozy and warming and is not like steeped in the aesthetics of fascism or something crazy like that. Like
totally, exactly.
That's a nice, comforting thing, and I totally agree with you, and I get it.
That's
and
right.
Also, I also spend so much of my time watching interior design stuff that it's wild. Like my YouTube algorithm has been just destroyed by interior design shows, and then like really bizarre ambient stuff. Like I watch a lot of like ambience videos.
Oh yeah, like where they're like, this is sort of a background, and then there's like, I love the ones that are like soft music playing in the 1930s in another room.
100%.
And it's snowing outside.
Exactly that. And the ones that are like, you're on a train car sleeping and behind you, like that stuff. Or like medieval scriptorium ambience. Because I'm writing my book and I need something that makes me not feel like I'm trapped in this room every minute
100%.
of every
Yeah,
day.
yeah. Honestly, trapped in this country, trapped in this life. I mean, I feel like
You're so
the
right.
YouTube ambiance has been really, really helpful lately.
Yeah, I mean, like, I joke about it a lot because so many of these things are so fake. Like, one time I posted a video on Blue Sky, I think, of my favorite, like, Shakespearean writing room ambiance, and I wasn't thinking about the fact that the people I know are all people who are experts on such things, and so I posted this, and someone was like, immediately, "That's not the right music." Immediately, not the right music for the 16th century.
You're like, "Okay, I didn't know hater ambiance
Yeah,
was on next."
yeah.
Okay, like, chill.
I was like, "Okay, never you're ruining the illusion, but thank you. Let me go back to my writing
Exactly.
minds, to my little
Yeah,
dungeon."
never mind. Exactly. I'll listen to whatever New Music Friday has to offer.
Yeah, exactly. Opening my day list to discover it's like
Mhm.
Japanese dungeon pop or whatever, or something
Right,
insane.
exactly.
We should probably talk about some history stuff.
I think we might need to.
One would think most people who are listening to this are actually here for that and not for our takes on scriptorium ambiance. Let's get into what we're all here for. Are you ready to learn some deeply infuriating stuff about a woman named Phyllis Schlafly?
Ah, always.
Also, can I say horrible name? That
Yeah,
first thing.
Schlafly. So many L's. Why what, like, was there, like, a cell of L's? Phyllis
It's
Schlafly.
Phyllis Schlafly is if I met this person and they said their name was Phyllis Schlafly, I would be like, "Huh, that sucks." And, that's actually not even an important
The
thing for
worst
why
thing
she's horrible.
about
Like,
her.
that's not even kind of high
Yeah.
on the list. I wanna note before we do this that I've been excited to talk about her for a very long time because I find it particularly distasteful when women argue for the inferiority of women.
Yeah.
Like, not just of other specific women, but women are like, "Across the board, we're awful."
We're worse, actually.
Yeah, and they're like, and I'm proud of that. And I think
Mhm.
her particular brand of doing so has been so enormously detrimental
Mhm.
to America and also to the relationship of American political culture to women and to women's
Yeah.
social positions, like right now at this very moment.
Agreed.
And we see so many resurgences of the things that she's saying and doing, and it just makes me feel so angry. Like, I feel
Yeah.
so mad about
Yeah.
her that I was really excited when this is who you picked as the person that you wanted me to talk about.
I just felt like we needed to let it out. There's somebody who needed to really get it from us, and she's the one. Yeah, I can't wait to hear all of your feelings about it.
Yeah, I mean, we always say, like, or when I say we, often I say we on this show, and I mean just me. Like, I'm the we, me and my child. This guy sucked. A podcast from Multitude Collective. Um, but often I'll say to other people, like, "Oh, this ends up being kind of an exorcism for us when we record an episode, or like cathartic." Because at the end of the episode, guests are often like, "I feel so glad. I feel so cleansed
Yeah,
of this," and like, I need
totally.
that. It's my turn.
Exactly, we've earned it.
What do you personally know about Ms. Schlafly going into this?
I'll tell you, the first time I heard that wretched name was when Mrs. America was announced as a TV show.
Sure.
I had a full ignorance to who she was and what she was about, even though her influence is obviously so grand and we'll get there. But I just knew there was a TV show and I was like, well, okay, well, anytime there's a TV show about like some sort of impactful woman in history, I like to do a little reading and to see if I really am interested. And, she's impactful in the way you don't want to be. I think, I think she was kind of just like the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
I know that she was incredibly regressive in her politics, specifically about the role of women in the world. She was against the Equal Rights Amendment. She really sort of set us back when women were really, starting to make giant leaps and strides in the 70s and late 60s. And so just knowing that she dedicated her life to being, really like the biggest op for women.
Yeah.
That's what I know about her. And as I tried to do a little bit of research and then I actually got so disgusted. I was like, you know what? I'll learn later. I will learn. So I'm excited to be guided through the eras of her horribleness.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. Like, this is one of the episodes that as I was doing the research, and it was different doing the prep for this episode versus other episodes, because normally I'm just doing sort of like surface level prep where I can fill in dates and times and stuff. And for this one, I was like, no, I want to make sure that I have everything really locked down, because I went
Yeah.
into this knowing how much I disliked her. And even doing the prep and finishing the prep last night was making me so angry. I kept having to take breaks because I was like, this is so infuriating and so horrible. And it makes me so mad. And one of the things that I think is interesting, actually, is in your framing of her as regressive, which I think is the traditional view on her. I would actually argue historically, she's not regressive. She's also not progressive. So, like, she's not wanting anything to go forward or backwards. She's kind of inventing a new category and creating a new version of history, which happens a lot with people that we remember as, like, particularly in like conservative politics and circles, where they start to say, this is what we used to be.
Mhm.
And I want to go back to that. But the thing that they're saying we used to be never really existed in the first place. And I think she
Totally.
is a perfect example of that. So modern, like contemporary politicians, especially like women in contemporary politics, especially women in contemporary conservative politics, even I would go further, now will be regressive, but they're not. And this is this sort of like Ouroboros of insanity here. They're not regressing to a time pre-Schlafly. They're regressing to Schlafly's
Yes.
vision of a time that existed before her. So it's all
Totally.
fake. It's all
Mhm.
fake. When someone says this is what people believed and thought in history, most of the time, unless they're a historian, it's fake. Like they're just inventing the past.
Yeah. That's actually really a good point. I want all of that specifically on a t-shirt, like the longest t-shirt that you have to get close to read, but it's like, yes, all of this is just made up, or like such a limited experience, like the
Yes.
experience of one person in a fairy tale that was older that kids read, but not like
Yeah.
a thing that was like common.
100%.
And so they're like, this is what women are going to live like. And it's like, when? They never did. They don't want to. They never wanted to.
They never wanted to, and they didn't in the first place. Like, a thing that happens a lot is people will say, well, this is what women did at this time. And I have to say, which women? Like, which
Yeah.
race, which class, all of these
Mhm.
things. You are talking most of the time about an extremely narrow subset of people.
Right.
And truly, the majority of people do not have that experience. They
Right.
just usually, like, the thing that allows us to understand a specific past is, were they literate or
Yeah.
not?
Right.
Like, that's actually the thing that allows us to know about a specific subset, is like, were they literate and or did they have their stories written down?
Exactly.
Most people aren't. Like,
Exactly. To this day. To this day.
you're so right. Actually, the thing that has made my life easier since becoming a very public online historian is remembering that most Americans do not read above a fourth grade level.
No. And
So,
the ones who can haven't read since they were 15. So
well, yeah, exactly.
if it didn't happen to Catcher in the Rye, it didn't happen, you know?
Yeah. And they're the ones who like have those, you know, those book lists now that are like books that you can read. Read the first
Yes.
3 pages and you'll understand it.
Mhm.
Or like, we
Yeah.
do an AI summary of this book for you. And I'm like,
Right.
we are cooked.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Unfortunately.
it's all right. There's going to be 4 people left standing, and I'm proud to say I'll be one of them.
I will be. I'm marked safe from that. Thank God. I just want to say, everyone who comes on this podcast can read. That's the
Yes.
minimum requirement for being on the pod.
Exactly. And honestly, it's a high bar, but we're clearing it.
And for some of us, just barely. It depends on what time of day I'm
Mhm.
recording. Let's do a little bit more Schlafly talk, as much as I hate her.
Mhm.
Maybe we can start with some early life stuff, because I
Sure.
think her early life truly overdetermines everything she does after that, because it comes up
Totally.
over and over and over again, literally until she's dead,
Yeah.
which happens, by the way, in September 2016. She lives from 1924 to September 2016. That date does matter.
It's too long.
Yeah.
It's too long.
Normally, yeah. Well, yeah, I would say it's a long time. She lives, what, 92?
Yeah.
She has a good long life. Some might argue about the good part of that, but she lives till September 2016, and that is important later, which we will get to, the fact that I've included the month here.
Mhm.
But her full name is Phyllis McAlpin Stewart Schlafly. She gets married, and that's where the Schlafly comes from. Born in St. Louis, Missouri, dies in St. Louis, Missouri. Her whole personality is in part based on the fact that she is from Missouri. And I don't know what
Yeah.
that says about anybody, but you guys have to claim her, not me.
Yeah, it's not on me.
It's not on me. Her father, John Bruce Stewart, is this like engineer sales guy. Her mother is a librarian slash teacher. This is actually very important to her life story because during the Great Depression, her father loses his job
Mhm.
and her mother goes back to work and is a teacher
Yeah.
and a librarian for basically, I think, the rest of her life, or at least for like a significant period of time. She at one point is a librarian for the St. Louis Museum of Art. And so she does this to support her family financially during this period that her father is unemployed. I am not joking when I say that Phyllis Schlafly builds her entire personality for the rest of her life around the fact that her mother went back to work and she didn't like it.
Yeah, it seems like she took the wrong lesson from that, where it's like, we could have all just died, but at least your mom could get a job. And she's like, actually, I think it's on the government to make sure only men can be employed. And then that way my mom never leaves. It's like, okay, well,
Yeah.
okay.
I say this all the time on the show. Like it comes up almost every episode. My partner is a psychoanalytic therapist. Like he's like a Freudian, etc. Okay, sometimes he gets mad when I call him a Freudian. He is a Freudian, but he's also a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
But truly, so much of my life is me being like, my God, a lot of people never, ever exit their childhood.
No.
Like a lot of people literally build their whole life forever around their childhood, which is once again proving that Freud was fucking right.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately,
Damn
he
it.
was cooking.
he was cooking with that.
He was like, not another person doing this. Let it go.
And she will openly say that. So later in Schlafly's life, she's doing all these interviews because that's the thing. She's being interviewed all the time forever. And she gets asked regularly, like, so your mother worked as kind of a gotcha. And she's like, yeah. And that was bad. Like
she's like, the times were hard. It's like, okay, but like
you would be dead.
But you ate, right? You guys had food, right? So like,
yeah.
Actually, I think there's some pluses.
Surely we are grateful to our mother in this scenario rather than like, because it's not like she wishes her mother had this like easier life. Like I think she kind of does. But to me, it also feels like some of this is misdirected. And maybe it's like, maybe your father could have retrained in crypto or whatever. like maybe your dad could have done something different. I don't know.
He could have, exactly. It's not everybody else's fault. But it's also like, and this is my read as not in any way a credentialed psychotherapist, but I think that like when I hear stuff like that, like just historically, it's always like, oh, you were stuck at home with your dad who was probably complaining about his wife and the fact that his life was so hard and needed someone to blame for it. And so suddenly the person who's not there is the easiest target. And you like ran with it instead of thinking critically once you were old enough to like leave the house and do so. It was just like, this is all mom's fault.
Yep.
This is all the fact that she had a job's fault. Like, we wouldn't be poor if she had more money. It's like, but your dad didn't have a job.
Yeah, hold on.
Zoom out further. Zoom out further. And she's like, no, I couldn't possibly.
Well, yeah, and I think it's I just find it so infuriating. Like, if I took a thing that was a source of resentment for me at like age 8 for her, if I took that as a source of resentment for the rest of my life, that would be me being like, I think it's fucked up that older sisters get bigger rooms. Like that would be, like that would be my whole personality.
You're going to the Republican National Convention being like, the rooms are still too big.
The rooms are too big. And actually, I think younger sisters are oppressed. That would be
exactly.
my whole
hand-me-downs are actually messed up. I think that it should only
exactly.
be my little clothes going up.
Yeah, abolish thrift stores is basically would be my argument. And so I think it's embarrassing. So many things that she does I find kind of embarrassing, which I don't know if that's the take that a lot of historians have on her. I think it's kind of embarrassing and pathetic for some of these things. I'm just like, I don't know. If this were a video game, you'd be like, okay, so just get good. Like if you're mad that you're
skill issue, bro. Skill issue.
Exactly. Like, I don't know. I think it's distasteful, and her whole thing is distasteful and embarrassing, which is funny because she builds her whole life on being this sort of like tasteful homemaker smiley lady.
And isn't that the funny thing too, is that like not only is she working, but like it's kind of not a real job.
Yeah.
She's kind of just telling people what to do as a job. And it's like, okay, I think maybe if you just went and were a librarian for like 6 months, you would see it is not the root of all evil. And you might read a book or two that opens your mind beyond what they taught you in St. Louis. But all right.
Sure. Hi, it's Claire. Thank you for listening to the show. You're currently hearing the free version of This Guy Sucked, so I'm here to tell you about our Patreon. In order to make the show sustainably and independently, episodes switch off between free weeks and Patreon weeks. So, if you're a fan of good, accurate public history made by actual experts, consider supporting us and joining our honorary haters club. It's only one tier, which means everyone who subscribes gets access to the same perks across the board. For the price of a pastry at your local hip coffee shop, you'll get to listen to a new episode every week instead of just the bi-weekly free ones, and they'll all be ad-free for you. You'll also get access to the full episode archive, bonus content, early access to merch, and lots of other fun Patreon exclusives to sweeten the deal. Just head over to patreon.com/thisguysucked or follow the link in the episode description to sign up. So, for some more backstory on her life, she gets a BA in political science at Washington University in St. Louis, which also educated, interesting. Then she gets a master's in government in 1945.
But not hoping to get a job, right? Doing all this work, but just like,
Sure.
where was it going to lead? It's like her whole body is telling her, yes, this is right. But her mind
is saying, I love to work, actually.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
This is another important sort of life event. In World War II, during the Second World War, she worked as, quote, a ballistics gunner and technician at the largest ammunition plant in the world, according to her. So before she was working, she literally worked her whole life.
Right.
Which I think is an interesting thing to have done as a person who will then make your entire career about how women should not work.
Right.
Your career.
Because it's also not like she just like threw the money away. Like, I feel like there were benefits to working jobs that she's not really mentioning.
Yeah, one would think.
Mm-hmm.
So then after this, actually an important part of this is in 1946, right after she graduates from her master's, she gets a job working for the American Enterprise Institute, or AEI, which is, I would say, vaguely evil conservative think tank that still exists to this day.
Seems bad.
So now it's more, and someone who's listening can correct me if I'm wrong, because this is not as much my area of expertise, but I think it's more like a libertarian, business, economics oriented conservative think tank. But like literally the second she gets out of college, she is working a job in politics. So like this starts to not really fit with her, what will become, again, a career in telling women not to have careers. Which I think is interesting. She works in like national defense research, including at the American Enterprise Association, which I think turns into the American Enterprise Institute. Again, someone listening can tell me I'm an idiot if I'm getting this wrong, but that's not so much my bag. But then in the 50s, she runs for Congress because what else is a girl to do?
Yeah. Couldn't just go start that family and sit down like she said.
Well, no. She gets married in 49. She marries this guy named Fred Schlafly, and runs for Congress and inevitably loses. But this is the moment when she starts to be like, oh, some of the stuff that I've been doing could coalesce into like a level of political platform and career that I hadn't, like, it seems like she had been thinking about, but hadn't really seen a sort of like inroad for it yet.
Totally.
And she ultimately loses like by a pretty significant amount. But her voice on this sort of like scene of conservative women
becomes more important now.
Yeah. She then publishes a book called A Choice, Not an Echo, which basically says you want a conservative choice, not a liberal echo. Like you want conservative politics to be conservative on their own rather than echoing liberal policies. Again, this is what she says she's doing. I don't know if that's what she's actually doing. Yeah. But she becomes really influential in Barry Goldwater's campaign.
Great. Cool. A guy who history has remembered fondly and no one has ever had a problem with, and he had no problems in his own life.
Any big Goldwater heads in the comments?
Exactly. Yeah. Goldwater Hive, are we eating? Goldwater Hive.
Sorry.
Jesus.
Goldwater Hive, are we eating? That's the first time that sentence has ever been uttered.
It's actually wild.
We're actually inventing history as we speak.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
I don't know if anyone has ever been in Goldwater Hive. He wasn't in Goldwater Hive.
He wasn't in Goldwater Hive. Phyllis Schlafly, only person who was ever in Goldwater Hive. And what's funny is later they actually have some like differences. They have a little split because she doesn't like some of his policies. She thinks he's too libertarian, et cetera, et cetera. But she really makes her name by being initially like the Goldwater girl.
Yikes, bro.
Goldwater Girls, another option for fans of Mr. G.
All the Goldwater girls, it's just her.
Oh, Golden Girls, like cursed.
Yeah, rough.
Yuck.
She has the worst taste. Anyway, I mean, she married someone with the last name Schlafly. It's only going downhill from there.
Yeah, and to be fair, like, actually, I just had a merch idea, and I think Goldwater Hive or, like, Goldwater Girls is a hilarious merch idea. That being said, I fear that someone who actually likes Barry Goldwater will purchase it.
Who? Her? She's dead. Don't worry about it.
So what happens next? She then has another congressional run in 1970, and you know what she does? She loses.
Yeah.
Once again.
And she's like, and that's exactly where women are supposed to be.
Exactly. In second place, baby.
Publicly.
Second place
upholding
forever.
her values, and I love that for her.
You know what? If that's what she's doing, she's actually playing the long game on this, and more power to her. She's actually playing 5D chess, and none of us are aware of what's going on.
We didn't know.
We didn't. We actually you have to respect the Schlafly game.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote in my notes after she graduates, it's all downhill, which is hilarious because for her it would be all uphill, and for me, it's terrifying. But the real moment that matters here that will turn into literally the rest of the episode is in 1972, she found something called Stop ERA, which is pretty important to her and also totally fucks up the rest of America forever.
Yeah.
Like, it is not an exaggeration to say that she is directly responsible for this. She, since the 60s, had been publishing this newsletter and having this syndicated radio commentary show. So, unfortunately, evidence that podcasters and radio hosts have been evil forever.
Yeah, true.
But starting in the 60s, and it's called the Phyllis Schlafly Report. And it continues for literally the whole rest of her life, which I think is really sad and weird. And it's at one point has this huge, huge membership. But it allows her to have this audience of like grassroots conservative women, basically, who are listening to her and hearing justification and validation for the life that they are living or that they wish that they were living.
Yeah.
And she starts being this like, I mean, she kind of already was, but she starts being this family values lady.
Always.
It's important to note that the concept of family values is like this amorphous thing that has meant different things forever, but she helps to solidify it into what we think of as family values today.
Yeah.
The sort of modern conception of what family values are is based in her and other members of what we now call the New Right and their thoughts around what families are and what roles within a family should be. So like, reminder to people that stuff is all retconned. Like, it's all this weird psyop retconning thing where people are going back and projecting that into the past when it is an invention. This is another one of her weird inventions. But because of that, when something called the Equal Rights Amendment or the ERA, and you know about this, but for people who are listening, they might not. When that starts to gain steam again in the late 60s, early 70s, she's like, not on my watch.
Exactly. If I actually have rights, I'm going to lose it.
I'm going to be pissed.
Exactly.
Which is not good.
Yeah.
As a sidebar, let's talk about what the Equal Rights Amendment is for people who don't already know about this. Just a spoiler for everyone, we still don't have it.
Yeah.
But it is a proposed amendment to the U.S. Constitution that would legally enshrine equal rights for everybody, regardless of sex. Sex would be the language that they use here. And so there are a lot of questions about like gender and sex and whatever. But we'll just use sex because that's the language of the amendment.
Yeah.
It essentially works to prohibit sex-based discrimination, with the argument being that an explicit federal constitutionally protected right is, and I think understandably, inherently stronger than a state level right or an implied right. So like when you say everyone should have rights, people are like, okay, but we need to drill down and say, what do you mean by these rights and who do you mean by everybody?
Yes.
And there are a lot of people who don't like it if you say that.
Yes. Oh, totally. They're like, no. Why are you adding people? Keep the list short and make it only me.
Yeah, your definition of people is not my definition of people. And unfortunately,
yes, 100%.
In your definition, you'd be a person, and I don't like that.
Yes.
And To me, it sounds good, right? Like, that sounds pretty straightforward. They're saying, look, we want all these things that we allegedly say are enshrined in the Constitution. We want them to actually be enshrined in the Constitution. Seems pretty straightforward. But unfortunately, people have been arguing about it since 1923, which is when it
Right.
was first written and introduced. So only about 3 years after women get suffrage in the first, some women in some circumstances.
Some women, which I mean, this is my own sort of like take on it, but we were talking a little bit before we started recording about, I think her very vague feelings about race, but one of the criticisms of the ERA is that like Black women are then considered inherently women if you're talking about all women, and
Yeah.
Black women are women, but it's like the idea that like if you create this
Spoiler.
separation, right? Exactly. And I mean, I think in the language that like we often hear today, people are always like Black people and women, as if there is no like crossover.
Yeah.
And I think that that's not by accident. I think that that's just sort of like a subconscious part of our culture is like Black people will be discriminated against. And that only really works if we're not doing that in like chunks. Like it's just gotta be like Black people writ large. And so I'm not, here to hypothesize that that is the main reason why she's against it. Obviously, she has regressive thoughts about what women's roles should be publicly and in the home. But I think that like it isn't lost on me that like that's where she went, because like if you think of the time period, you have all of these wins for civil rights leading into the 70s. And I think that that is a big inspiration. I do a podcast for Courier we've talked about like trad wives and sort of like the future of this, but I also do a podcast called Rebel Spirit for iHeart.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, this is where we see all of this regressive shit coming up, where it's like, oh, suddenly like a family is defined by very like slim descriptors, and like we'll do everything we can to stop the progress that's happening. And I think that it's the first big jump, obviously, post Jim Crow for rights for people of color. And so it's like, I think that it's just easy to slow down like pump the brakes on these rights. Stop changing things. Things are changing too quickly. And, to use her language, we sort of see echoes of that from there on out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, one of the things that's interesting is you're right. Like, race is this inherent thing in all of us. And we'll talk about it a little bit more in terms of Schlafly. But like, even when we're talking about women's suffrage, right, in the 1920s, there are a bunch of suffragettes who are famously incredibly racist.
Yes.
And these are also the people, like, really, really racist. And these are also the people who are arguing over whether the ERA should exist. So, like, this is a thing that has shown up over and over again. When there is a major civil rights movement in whatever context, in this case, we're talking about, in the 20s, we're talking about women's, like, civil rights in terms of suffrage. But also then you have, like, racial civil rights later. There are when this happens, people start to feel this swell and, like, this surge of opportunity, and they say like, well, what can we get now? And there are always people like Schlafly being like, shut the door. Like, we need to close the door immediately.
Exactly. Yeah, literally. Right. Like, and shut the door. And if we could just go back 8 years and like take some things.
Yeah.
Like, let's go way back. Let's go way back.
Yeah. And for more like ERA stuff, because I do want people to kind of understand the context of the ERA and why her whole deal is so incredibly annoying, is that the ERA from jump, like from the 20s, was an incredibly controversial piece of legislation, in part because women cannot agree on what women's rights should look like. And this is a recurring problem with the ERA, but also like even now in terms of things like abortion and marriage and stuff. Like, women cannot agree on what they want to be their rights. We know what men want women's rights to be.
Yes.
But women can't like seem to come up with like a cohesive, coherent argument on this.
Yeah, like, and we're all on the same page, and they're like, no, I want less.
Yeah,
Stop giving me things.
Yeah, exactly. And this is actually the stop thing. We'll talk about that in 1 second, but that is like one of the most infuriating things about this. Her organization is called Stop ERA. Literally, stop giving me things. It's called Stop Taking Our Privilege, which to have the first word of your acronym, which is stop, infuriates me.
Yeah.
Like, that you can't have the word that your acronym is in the acronym.
Right. Now it's confusing, and now it's worse.
Stop taking our privileges.
Yes.
But at the time that to go back to the 20s once again, at the time that the ERA was introduced, part of the issue is that women in many cases had very specific restrictions on the amount and types of work that they were allowed to do. So lots of people saw the ERA as primarily a sort of labor and economic issue rather than a social or civil issue.
Totally.
And some women would argue, or did argue, basically that these restrictions were probably the argument that you and I would make. We're arguing that these restrictions were hampering women's abilities for economic self-determination,
Totally.
like keeping you from having economic freedom and therefore social freedom, essentially.
Yes.
The others on the other side were arguing that these restrictions were actually privileging women and protecting them from the difficulties of intensive labor, etc. So it's not like just a case of men not wanting women to be equal, although that's obviously also happening, but that women have different conceptions of womanhood and safety and protection. And Schlafly
Totally.
is going to play on this when it shows back up in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if we're jumping back to the 70s, I remember just reading that like a large part of her platform was like this idea that I guess like the time she's living in, right? There's no ERA ratification. Then there's like the reality that women are considered dependents like children are.
Mhm.
And so it's like, oh, well, I can just get everything from my husband's job, which is funny to me because if her dad had no job,
Yeah.
then why is that beneficial to you? Like,
Well,
you're
yeah.
not getting anything.
I'm just saying your husband could be a loser. Like, that is an option.
Right, exactly, like, historically, I feel like that's happened. So I just think that, like
There have been cases.
yeah, many such cases, and I just think that, like, it's interesting to limit your opportunities in that way, but there's a lot going on in that noggin of hers, not necessarily, like, firing at all cylinders, but stuff's going on. Stuff's knocking around.
Stuff's happening for sure. There's at least one
Bad
bouncing
math.
around. Yeah, one's bouncing around like a DVD menu or whatever.
Mhm,
There's something going
yes.
on in there. The ERA is basically killed after the 20s for a while because, and this is not necessarily like the only argument, but one that I would make. It's kind of hard to argue during the 20s and intervening period. It's kind of hard to argue that everybody should have equal rights to anything when Jim Crow is still like raging in the South.
Right.
You can't be like women should have equal rights and everybody should have equal rights when there are a significant portion of people who are like,
Can we even get, like, half rights?
yeah, I don't feel like that's what's happening here. Like,
Yeah, exactly, like, I don't think we're that close.
yeah, exactly. But then when the women's lib movements happen after civil rights or in
Mhm.
conjunction with civil rights,
Yes.
not after, I should say, like alongside,
Mhm.
it starts to gain steam because people are like,
Yeah.
hold on, women can organize around social and civil and economic freedoms. And there are people who are like, the ERA is this sort of next necessary legal step towards that. And so in 1972, after years of organizing, the ERA goes to state legislatures for ratification. This is the boring part. The requirement is that it can become the process of becoming a U.S. constitutional amendment once it is ratified by 3/4 of the state legislatures, or 38 states, by a given deadline, which was originally March 1979. They had 7 years, and then it later gets extended to 1982. So in response, Phyllis Schlafly said, absolutely not. Like, absolutely not.
She's like, "Well, I know 38 states, and I'm on my way."
Exactly. I have heard of at least 38. She launches this Stop ERA campaign, which ends up being one of the most successful grassroots organizing campaigns in American history. It is not an exaggeration to say that the ERA fails because of her.
Yeah,
Like, literally her, the one person who decides to come up with this stupid ass campaign.
awful.
So, like, there are times on the show where I don't want to I don't want to lay something at someone's feet and be like, this person's fully to blame. She is fully to blame for this.
Right. Right, if she didn't exist, like, there's no world where, like, there was
Yeah.
somebody who was number 2. Like, I think it's easy to look now at sort of our social systems and, like, our media landscape and be like, "Okay, well, like, if that guy's gone, there's, like, 80 other guys behind him, carrying the
Yeah.
same water of regressive politics." But for her, it's like she was sort of the trailblazer and, like, the leading voice.
Yeah.
Like, maybe she's inspired people now, but, like, back then, it's not like there were a million women with radio shows that were also
No.
saying it. It was really her. It was her personal brand.
Yeah, exactly. She's not just like at the vanguard of this and there are people who are sort of coming behind her. That is not what's happening. The people who are coming behind her, I mean, there are conservative women doing other stuff, but the people behind her are people that she is dragging along with her, that she is
Yes.
holding
Mhm.
by the hand and saying, let's go, girls. Like,
Exactly. Let's go back inside, girls.
yeah.
Let's go under the house, girls.
Yeah, literally, it's awful because you can't say back in time because again, this isn't real
No.
before like, she is existing at a time where the sort of, like, what we imagine to be the '60s housewife, like, she's fighting against all these '60s
Yes.
housewives.
Right.
It's also not as commonly of a shared belief as one would think it might have been, like, the morals that she holds or the sort of values that she holds are not widely shared for the most
No.
part until she makes them a problem and convinces women that that's what they need to be doing.
Totally. And if only they could just have that again. Again, in quotes
Sure.
for those listening. If they could have it again,
Yeah.
then they can, things will be fixed. And it's like, maybe you just don't like your husband. Maybe all your problems aren't this.
Yeah, also, again, a reminder, this woman did not have this at any
Her
point.
mom didn't. It's not in her lineage.
Her
Like,
dad was at home, her mom was working, she's been working her whole life. This thing that she imagines going back to, she literally has never, ever had in her entire life. So it is so
yeah.
wild to me that people are buying what this grifter lady is
And
selling.
why doesn't she go first? Like, why don't you go first? You shut
Yeah,
up and like, stay in the house for a while and
sure.
then come back out and be like, it's good in here. But you never do that.
Yeah, and people have been saying that forever, and we're saying that to her at the time. Like, well, why
Yeah,
don't you just lead by example then, lady? And if it's so great, then other people might do it too. But she's like,
exactly.
"Nah,
Yeah.
I don't need to do that."
She's like, well, they don't give you a microphone from inside my house.
Yeah, exactly. Podcasts don't exist yet, unfortunately. She would have the worst TikTok on the planet. Like this,
Horrible.
everyone we
Horrible.
talk about on the show would be a horrible person on TikTok, but I'm telling you, we have women now that I'm like, ban them.
Yes, same.
And she is that.
I'm like, we'll get to it, but objectively, I feel like there's so many people who are trying to make the Phyllis Schlafly brand their personal brand
Yeah,
today in 2025,
they sure
2026,
are.
whenever this comes out. And it's funny because it's like they just won't go home then. I'm like, why don't you just get in the house? Like, if it's so nice in there, why are you outside? Why are you on a stage? Like,
Yeah, you could just do it for you.
yeah, right.
Like, you could just do it for you. Why does it have to be for everybody, right? Like, why
Yeah,
does everyone have to have this thing enforced for them too?
right,
And
right.
that is, like, the confusing sort of paradox of all of this is, like, you could just do that. Nobody is preventing you from hanging out.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right,
why are you mad that other people don't wanna hang out?
right.
I don't know, I find it so infuriating, and so many people have thought about this forever and talked about this forever at length and written about it, but, like, it still is, like, fundamentally at base, I just am like, I don't get it.
I think the truth is they don't want it either. I
Well,
mean, like,
yeah.
that would be my, like, take is, like, they don't really want it. It gives them something to talk about. If they never get what they want, then they always have something to talk about, and it's like, right, but, like, no one is holding you hostage at work. Like, you could
Yeah,
quit at any point. No one would be mad. In fact, 0 people might notice, and unfortunately, it's like, but then you're gonna be in your house complaining about what?
yeah,
The fact that you made a bad choice? Like,
yeah,
I think it's a lot of just like, needing something to rail against, needing to feel oppressed when
yes,
there is no real oppression.
yeah.
And I think that that is like a psychological issue that I hope is being studied deeply.
I hope so. That's actually what we're doing right now. Public scholarship on women being extremely weird and, like, needing to feel important in a way that is, like, by actively harming other people around them as much as humanly
Yes,
possible,
totally.
and making the argument that what they're doing is not harming people, they're saving them. Like, that to
Yeah.
me is and that's been the rhetoric forever. That's Schlafly's rhetoric for all of this. The people around her, that's what
Hmm.
they're arguing and have been arguing since she, showed up on the scene. To give you some, like, arguments that she makes against the ERA so that people can hear the, like, level of, like, infuriating feelings that you'll have from this. 1, she says gender differentiated laws should remain. So things like alimony provisions, where women should be paying less alimony in the case of a divorce or have alimony paid to them. Social Security dependent wife benefits. Women should be getting more benefits. And that's like all of these things could just be made equal. But she's like, no, no, no.
Yeah.
We need these to be better for women.
Right. Which is funny because it's like she is arguing the opposite of what men's rights people would be arguing.
Yeah.
They're like, it's not fair that women get all this stuff. And yet they
Yeah.
were, historically voting the exact same way.
Yeah. And she would be aligned with them, to be clear.
Yeah.
She would be aligned with them while also saying, all of this just makes me so mad because none of it makes any sense. Like, none of it
None.
logically works out at all.
Right.
She's very in favor of mother's presumptive custody norms, which is like mothers should have custody automatically
Right.
unless there's some reason that the mother can't have custody, rather than men and women, it should be between whoever is better equipped for this.
Yeah, it's both of their kids.
Or one might think,
Mhm.
but not Schlafly. She's also really into what she calls the sort of traditional family structure. The ERA would downgrade the role of the homemaker. Again, you can just be that.
Right. There's nobody saying you can't.
Yeah, if I said you could go to work and be equal, or you could just stay at home and nothing would change for you. What is the problem with the first one? I truly don't
Right.
understand it.
Right.
She says things like gender distinctions are going to be removed by judges, not by democratic debate. Again, this is a woman who's saying she doesn't want judges to do things. She wants everyone to debate them, but she also wants to actively ensure that judges rule her way.
Yeah.
So she likes judges for her. I like laws for me and not for you.
Right.
Is what's happening here.
Exactly. I need the judges to say a different thing.
Yeah. And actually, judges who don't say a different thing are bad and wrong and activist judges.
Yeah, they shouldn't actually be allowed.
Yeah, and it's the same thing we hear now. Judges who rule a certain way are viewed as activist judges. Judges who rule a certain, like, most often towards the left are viewed as activist judges. But judges
Yeah.
who vote in a sort of right-leaning direction are not viewed as activist judges.
Right.
What's going on there?
Yeah, right. It's only activism if things get better, I guess.
Yeah. Well, one thing. Part of that is her because she helps to frame the concept of an activist judge. Like, so many of the
Yeah.
things that are normal in American political culture now are Schlaflyisms, and it
Yes,
makes me so
totally.
mad. And people aren't even aware of that. They just think that that's just like a normal conception. That's just how American culture works.
Right, that we yeah, like, this is something that's been talked about, totally. And I think it's also just sort of, like, at least, like, enlightening that
Yeah.
one person in a time with way fewer communications options was able to be that impactful, and I guess that's the truth about all history, right? It's like, it's always
Sure.
just, like, one guy who maybe was really too good at talking to people and had terrible ideas.
Yeah.
So maybe if you guys have good ideas, you could say them louder. That's all. That would be my keep going, guys.
I agree. And here we are saying them louder. So I
Yes.
think that's one
Mhm.
thing. And I actually think some of this is heartening because to me it says if a person is capable of making the world worse by talking
Mhm.
or rallying people or whatever, the inverse must also be true that a person can
Yeah.
make the world better by talking and rallying people and thinking a different way. The idea that thought is only impactful when it's bad is itself a bad thought. Like
Yeah,
it
totally.
prevents us from doing anything.
Mhm.
So, like, sometimes the Schlafly stuff, you look at it and you're like, "Okay, but, like, all that says to me is that anybody could do this. Like, anybody could
Yeah.
actually make the world better if they wanted to. It's just an option. I'm just
Yeah.
saying."
Totally. Maybe rally the troops, guys.
Yeah, the Goldwater Hive rise up at the
I love that your fans are now gonna be called the Coldwater.
That's so bad because Goldwater is horrible.
Horrible, but
I will also say, like, the reason that we're not succeeding at good things happening because of people thinking and talking out loud is because the media landscape does not privilege that for the most part.
yeah, no, not at
Which
all.
she has that sort of, like, sympathetic to her at the time that she's
Mhm.
rising, but, like, maybe one day, hey.
Yeah, maybe.
What other things? She's like her whole thing is that she says she's pro-woman, like, that's a big sort of, like, pillar of her argument for everything is that she is pro-women, and she says,
Yeah.
like, "I actually want to protect women. I want to privilege them." One of her big things is and you'll hear this all the time, actually, if we make women equal to men and give them equal rights, when I say make women equal to men, I mean, like, legally,
Yeah.
women will be drafted into the military. Like, that's one of her big arguments, and everyone's like, "Well, I don't want that."
Yeah, and they also never go to the further step of, like, what if no one was drafted
Well,
into
yes.
the military? And then they're like, "But what if we need people to fight the war? We gotta have the draft, but we hate the draft." And it's like, guys, work that out on your own time. I
Yeah.
think we should just get our rights, and then we can talk about that later because
Yeah.
the draft is bad for everybody.
My thought is, it sucks that you have to get drafted. I think the
Yes.
solution is that no one gets drafted, not
Right.
that we all do.
Yeah, exactly. There was actually like, there's other math that could have been taking place,
Yeah,
but
there's another kind of equality we could have here, but we're not
Yes.
ready to talk about that at this
no,
moment in
never
time.
that, never that.
It reminds me of did this ever happen to you in middle school, or did I just go to a bad middle school? Which I definitely did, actually. But, like, you could be like, "No, women are equal to men. Girls can do anything boys can do." And guys are like, "Okay, so then I could punch you in the face." Or like, "Oh, so
Right.
men could just hit women and that's allowed." Like that thing where you're like, what if
Exactly.
the argument is nobody hits anybody?
Right. Exactly. What if women don't hit you and you don't hit women, and now we keep moving forward in the conversation?
Yeah.
What about that?
What if nobody gets hit?
What about other things that people do? Yeah, why is that a thing that you think about where it's like, that's the rights that I'm losing is to hit you? You don't have the right to hit men either, actually. Did you know that?
Yeah. Also, I want to be clear. Like when guys say that, I'm like, I bet you're saying that because if you could hit a woman, you fucking would.
Right, exactly. You're looking for legislation to say, I'd like to hit a woman, not anything else.
And also, again, men hit women all the time, law or no law. I'm just saying.
Right. Actually, good point.
And women hit men all the time. Like, it's the same thing here.
Yeah. Hitting is the problem.
Well, yeah.
Why don't we get to that point? They're like, no. It's about rights and it's about women.
Yeah. It makes me so mad because it's the same thing with like the same sex spaces and stuff because she also is really about that. She's like, you don't want men in your bathrooms. And it's like, if a man wants to walk into a bathroom, he can. And he will.
Yeah, he has.
It's the same argument we have now where I'm just like,
yes.
What do you think a legal prohibition is the thing that's keeping scary people from doing scary stuff? Like they just do it.
Right. And why do we only believe that it's possible for the things that they think are bad? Like someone having to pee and going to the bathroom versus like, oh, well, somebody with a gun will just like shoot somebody. And they're like, no, that's different because like they have to have the right to that gun. And it's like, okay. Yeah. So guys, you're not making a lot of sense. Like the logic is not logicking at this point.
Yeah. The internal logic here does not make sense and it's not real. And like that's the thing that's important here is that like all of these things are inventions. They're not logical. And I will also say there are plenty of things on the left that are not logical, but like at least they're like aspirational. Like here it's about this idea of like shoving things down and making them smaller and more difficult in service of a past that never ever existed in the first place. And it makes me feel crazy. Like it makes me as a historian feel crazy reading some of these things.
Yeah.
Especially because now we have a society that's like so built around some of the stuff that she comes up with.
Yes.
We somehow believe that it's been the case forever and it's not. And it just makes me feel it's crazy making. It makes me feel insane.
Yeah.
Hi, gang. It's Claire with my usual quick mid-episode shout-out to tell you about other Multitude shows I think you might enjoy listening to. If you like history, that suggests you're the kind of person who's into bizarre and esoteric lore about people doing inexplicable things for equally inexplicable reasons. What if I told you there was a video game series that was basically just many, many hours of that exact same thing, which has been leaving people saying what the hell for the last 23 years? What if I told you there was a podcast about that video game? Simple and Clean is a show where hosts Misha Stanton and Mayana Baron talk about Kingdom Hearts, a little video game franchise about really big feelings. Join them every week as they discuss the plot, characters, world building, music, fashion, and societal impact of a thing that by all means probably shouldn't even exist. Never heard of Kingdom Hearts? That's okay. They're here to break it down for you, explain why they love it, and hopefully convince you that it deserves a place in your heart too. In each episode, Mayana and Misha attempt to unravel how this deceptively expansive game series has touched an entire generation of deeply earnest weirdos. They put out new episodes every Sunday, so go check out Simple and Clean wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's also like, I mean, just like as a quick aside, like I think we live in a time of like deep conspiracy theories and people feeling like they've been gaslit and lied to.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is an example of like you explicitly being lied to about like the experience of women historically. Like there wasn't some time when everybody was just in the house chilling all day and like their husbands were making money and it was very simple. And now suddenly we have to read books. It's so hard. And like, no. Like it's just not real. But it's like, people want to be lied to, I think, about some things.
Yeah.
Like they want an explanation for why their life is hard. And it's much easier to come up with a fantasy or fairy tale about how, well, back in the day, I would have been so taken care of. It's like, no, you probably would have had to marry somebody out of convenience because you didn't have any money of your own. And it probably wouldn't have been a very good relationship. And you probably would have had to have kids, whether you wanted to or not. And you probably had aspirations that you shoved down. And then ultimately, if you didn't poison your husband, you thought about it. So like, that's the story of most people's grandparents. And unfortunately, we're not talking about, Phyllis didn't want to bring that up. Her mom probably wanted to poison her husband and vice versa. And she never talks about that.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think what's so funny about all of this is like, It makes no sense. It has no historical grounding. And also, like, if you use that same logic, like if you say, okay, I'll make a concession here. Women were working in the home. And then you say, okay, but let's look at which women were staying at home and not working, right?
Yeah, some people were always working.
Well, yeah, and that's the real fundamental argument against, like, that you can offer against any of this is, like, basically, first of all, Schlafly has nannies, so she's not doing the thing.
Right, someone's working, someone's
Someone's
doing
working.
it.
And then also, like, if you look back to, for example, a time that a lot of people will look at is, like, the antebellum period and be like, "Well, women
Yeah.
are at home." And we know that if someone likes the antebellum period, it's 'cause they're a racist. Let's be very clear, that's what's going on there.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. They're like, "But I just like the linens." I'm like, "No, you don't, because you know those
Sister.
people smell crazy. You
Yeah.
like the racism. You know that they smell absolutely like horses, so you need to understand that what you like is racism and do some internal work."
It's a very, like, miss me with the plantation wedding situation where you're like,
Right.
"Unfortunately,
Yes.
I will not be attending."
Yeah, and you're not gonna convince me it's just a house. It's not
No,
just a house.
it's
There's a
not.
graveyard.
Yeah.
Talk about the graveyard.
Yeah, where's your home cemetery, to be clear? If it
Yeah.
has one, if people were allowed to even have one, first of all.
Right, exactly.
The thing here is, like, if someone looks at the antebellum period and is like, "I love that," and using your example of, like, I don't wanna read books, right? There are a group of women who are reading books and sitting in their house, and they're loving reading the
Mhm.
books, and they're people who have slaves,
Yes.
who have enslaved people
Yes.
working for them, raising their children, right? Like, that's what you're imagining.
Yes. Exactly. Someone's always working.
Someone is always working, and it's always a woman who is in a position who is lower than you and, like,
Mhm.
socially lower than you, economically lower than you. If you look at, for example, the early 20th century and you're looking at women in the 20s, for example,
Yes.
and you're imagining, like, they could just, like, make their home, whatever, they most likely have a working class immigrant mother
Yep.
raising their children for them
Yes.
or keeping their house or whatever. In all of these scenarios that we're looking back at, the reason that women are able to not work is because other women are working.
Yes.
Like,
The
it's
whole
not
time.
real. It's all fake.
Right,
There are
right.
always women doing this for them.
Mhm.
But the way that she is able to conceptualize of this and convince women to, like, follow along with her is by appealing exclusively, basically, to middle class women, to middle and
Yes.
upper class economically women.
And in America, I would say poor women who believe that that is actually their
Yes.
future, who have
Yes.
bought into some idea where it's like, this is a temporary condition.
Yes.
I'm actually going to have that. And it's like, statistically, no. Like, you're not getting there. Like,
Yeah.
people tend to never change classes in any meaningful way. So,
Yeah.
like, the idea that, oh, well, we're just currently poor, but like, I should be that woman at home. It's like, well, you're not gonna be.
Yeah.
And you never were. And unfortunately, that's the economic system we live in. Things are not equal. And so instead of fighting for better economic outcomes, you're fighting to give someone richer than you even more.
Well, yeah, and part of this is, like, you know what, scientifically, when we're talking, like, economics, I have people who listen to this and will hear me be like, "Economics isn't real science," but, like, a lot of it is imagination that we're hoping comes real.
Yes.
And I love shout out to all the economists listening to this right now.
Yeah. What's good?
What's good? We actually do like you. But there is so much evidence, historically speaking, that what allows women to experience real economic upward mobility, this will shock you, is the ability to work. So
Right.
the idea
Exactly.
that the idea that women who are in working class positions and, like, support her because they think that what she thinks is saying is this sort of aspirational life are actively preventing themselves from being able to access that.
Yeah.
It's infuriating.
Yeah.
It's the same thing you see now, basically, where
Mhm.
this lie is being sold to people, this aspirational lie is being sold to people, and the way it's being sold to them is by advocating for policies that actively prevent people from achieving that aspiration.
Totally.
And that's what she is doing.
And it also is just like, I guess the antithesis of what we're seeing. Like, I'm not a historian, but I have eyes. And
Yeah.
so it's like the idea, like, we all grew up in some town. The idea that some woman or some teenage girl getting pregnant, becoming a mom, in no way is the reality that that is like, and now she's rich and her life is comfortable and better, and we should all be doing that. Like,
Yeah.
everyone knows, and rich people know it better than anybody. I mean,
Yeah.
like, if abortion goes, they're still getting them for their
Yes.
teenagers. So
Absolutely.
it's like this idea, this fallacy that, like, the problem is that these women are going to college and looking for higher achievement and getting jobs. And, maybe their aspiration isn't just to be in the home doing stuff for some guy. It just bumps against this idea of like, and we would be richer or we've lost something.
Yeah.
Like, Nothing historically or with your own eyes tells you that that is true.
Yeah.
Everyone I know who had a kid in high school is like, you know what? I love these kids. And unfortunately, I'm like a 35-year-old grandma and I have nothing.
Yeah, and it's like, and if my child considers doing that, we're gonna have a serious conversation about what their
Right.
life is gonna look like if they make that choice for themselves. You know, like if my kid gets pregnant in high school, it's gonna be a problem, right?
Yes.
Like the people that you know who were teen moms are like, I would not wish this on anyone. Basically, I love my child. Like I mean, I'm from Oregon. That's happening in Oregon. Let's be clear.
Yeah. I'm from Kentucky. It's happening.
Yeah. And like it was so interesting at my high school because like being from Oregon and I'm from Portland, but like there's a lot of weird dynamics a lot of people aren't aware of. But like there is really like some of the people go and work for Nike, which is your options are
Mhm.
like become a psychic or work for Nike or get pregnant. Like those are your
Yes,
three.
those are
And
them.
the three genders in Oregon basically.
Be a psychic is sounding really good, but maybe it's pregnant or Nike. Who's to say?
Yeah, you don't know. You get they draw it out of a hat halfway through
Mhm.
middle school. But like that is the thing. And like people like Schlafly, for example, to bring it back to Miss Schlafly, she is one of the most influential anti-abortion activists, advocates within the Republican Party starting in 1970. Like she
Mhm.
is the girl for
Yeah.
anti-abortion activism for a really long time. She repeatedly advocates for overturning Roe v. Wade.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, we grant her wish after she dies, so that
Yeah.
sucks.
Right.
But at least she wasn't around to see it. So, hey, that's a win.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly. She's looking up at us now, and that's darn. She's like, "Wow, it's hot," but thank goodness I've ruined
oh
a bunch of women's
boy.
lives.
She has, this will shock no one, a no exceptions position. So she opposes abortion in all circumstances, including in the cases of rape and incest. Her only thing is this saving the life of the mother, but question mark on what that actually means. Nobody actually knows that. And
Right.
that's evidence of what we have now, where people are like,
Yep.
we should save mothers' lives. And then they go to the doctor in Texas, and Texas says, I don't care.
Yeah, bleed out in the parking lot. Good luck. Like we're not touching it. Yeah, it's not our fault.
Say, drive to Colorado, catch you later, basically.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so she is like a huge person in this movement. So we have her to thank for that. You want to know about reproductive health and education? She's also really against federal programs that distribute contraception to teens or without parental involvement. She opposes comprehensive sex education. She supports abstinence-only programs, which only become popular or like really, really take off in the 90s and 2000s. So that's from her.
Yeah.
She argues that sex ed promotes promiscuity. She says it undermines parental authority. Like really the most regressive things that women have
Yeah.
experienced since the passing of Roe v. Wade
Yeah.
are this woman.
Coming from her.
Yeah, and the
Mhm.
people around her, because she starts something called the Eagle Forum, which is like for conservative women. She hires almost exclusively white women to staff it.
Mhm.
It still exists to this day. Shout out to any Eagle Forum listeners.
Yeah, stop listening to Schlafly. Yeah, what if you just did something else with your life? Join the Goldwater High.
You could be my intern. I will hire you. No, I actually will not hire you as my. I take
Yeah,
it back. I take that
if
back.
you have to prove you can read, and unfortunately, the jury's out. But in any case, like, yeah, I mean, it is like really amazing that conservative people, evangelical Christian people, have sort of latched on to these and consider them like deep, long-standing beliefs when really these are like sort of the ideas of a one woman over the course of like 30 years. And they all have the same end, right? Like if the government is not going to take away these rights, then like what can we do to limit, I guess, like the opportunities for women? And it's like, yeah, if you have kids and you're 15, guess what? That limits your ability to go to college. That limits your ability to find job success. That limits your ability to have anything in life. And honestly, it's like, I kind of think that's what she wants. Like if she wants women back in the home, then it's like, however we can do that. So I guess it's like, yeah, like making children a burden instead of like a beautiful gift.
Yeah. And the thing is that's so interesting is that's what she argues feminists do, right? Like she
Right.
argues that feminists are viewing babies as burdens, that feminists are like presenting themselves as forever victims. She says this like pretty famously in 1977 in an interview that like, and she says it in a lot of other ways in other places too, but she says like feminists are viewing themselves as victims of oppression when actually they're the most privileged group that has ever existed, and American women are the most privileged group that has ever existed in history, and that they are sort of abdicating their responsibility, their sacred, beautiful responsibility as mothers and treating their beautiful, wonderful children as burdens. And when she is recording this at bedtime, when her kids are somewhere else.
Yes, exactly. When someone else is doing that what she considers not a burden, allegedly.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone else rearing her kids. I mean, it is just hypocrisy all the way down. And I think that, like, the moment you think about any of this stuff critically, it's so apparent. But it is wild that it is, like, taken root. And I also think that, like, this happens a lot of times, or like it gains steam in times of economic turmoil.
Yes.
Because people want a scapegoat. And so it's like you see the 80s with Ronald Reagan, where certain people are getting really rich, but that money never trickles down.
Yeah.
You see it now where it's like, okay, well, things are really expensive. It would be great if a man could just handle this burden and I didn't have to work so hard. It's like, well, it's not about, I think, gendered politics that people are having a harder time economically now. It's just that is the scapegoat.
Yeah.
It's an easy scapegoat, especially when you never have to prove anything.
Yeah.
Like, has she ever been forced to prove any of her theories?
No, of course not. And that's part of this, because what she can do is work with institutions like AEI or the Eagle Forum or other people in the New Right. Or she also at one point is associated with the John Birch Society, but then they have to pretend that she's not associated with them. So there's a whole big thing, but they're actually distributing her books in California.
Wow.
So there's a whole bunch of things. Like, she then works with institutions who then basically find studies or commission studies that will argue that the things they're saying are right. And so they find the conclusion after they've already drawn it. And so it's a very interesting thing where then you can say, well, here's the science behind this. But like, the science is initially, again, based off this like fake thing that's been made up in the first place. And so it's this really like self-sustaining environment that just keeps going on and on and on and on in a way that it feels now like just a normal feature of American life, but at one point was not.
Totally.
And that's kind of the thing I want people to really take away from this is like, this is actually a new thing. Like, this is not a long-term approach to American politics. It's also not like it's a sort of breaking off or a separation from long-term gender politics around the world. Like, this is a new thing.
Totally. I mean, you know what's funny is like when I think about the era in which she gains a lot of like popularity. So like, let's say the 70s. And you see someone like Sally Ride going to space and like people are lining up to see her. She is the future. She shows you what women are capable of and becomes the most popular astronaut of all time. You know, and women are really driving that. It's so fascinating to see like her happening as almost a counterculture at the same time, but lying to everyone and saying like, this is actually what people really believe.
Yeah.
Because I think borne out, that's just not ever been true. Like, people are always excited when women are achieving things. And I think that like, okay, maybe there's been a limit in this country, especially politically. But I would say that like, generally speaking, like, it is regressive, like in the purest sense of the definition. Like, I think human achievement is very much ingrained in women's achievement. And it's strange to be in a place where it's like, well, we should do less. Like, it just doesn't really track.
No.
And I also think that like right now we're sort of like in a regressive era. I think we could all agree with that. But I guess I take heart as someone who doesn't study history, but, you know, tries to notice some things.
Sure.
That this seems like, you know, another phase. And maybe it's a dimming phase, you know, maybe what comes after this could be better. I like to hope.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you do anything other than that, like, you're basically screwed. So you like, that's the only way to look at this. Like, you have to be like, there is going to be a shift somewhere. Otherwise, like, what's the point? Right. Like, otherwise, what? We just succumb to the Schlafly vision. She's underneath Sally Ride with a net trying to catch her.
Yes, 100%. 100%. She's like cutting the brakes 5 minutes too late.
Yeah, like we don't actually have to do this. We don't have to buy into it.
Yeah.
You know, so she has this, because we got to wrap this up eventually. She has this like really polarizing legacy, because there are a few things that she does really well. And this is not in a I want to give her flowers kind of situation, because it's not like that. She's good at talking. She's very personable. Like, that's part of her things, that she can go on TV and sound like she's having a reasonable conversation while she's saying, get back into the dungeon,
horrible
witch.
Things.
You know, like that's like that's
literally, she's like tying you to the stake and she's like, it's literally I just want to say this with love. I hope you burn it out.
Yeah, like that is what's happening. So she's an incredibly effective speaker. She knows who to use for her political aims. So there are a lot of things that like other organizing campaigns, especially on the left, have used from her in terms of her tactics. She's really good at organizing with churches. That's kind of her big thing is she get churches to work with her and hold sort of like organizing drives and grassroots campaign stuff with churches, with women's groups. Like she's really, really good at mobilizing sort of in terms of grassroots organization. She's a great speaker, like I've said. She's doing all this organizing stuff, and she finds a way to seek out political vacuums and voids and fill them with her ideas. So there's a moment in the 70s when women are basically saying, like, should we pay attention to older women or should like older middle class women who are kind of being screwed over by social reforms and economic reforms, or should we focus on working class women and women of color, which again, these are not separate ideas, right? Like there are plenty of middle class older women who are women of color, like, but there is this blind spot that sort of continuously happens.
Yeah. And also like, I think like a media blind spot of like,
absolutely.
Listen, this is what we believe exists, not the reality.
Yeah, absolutely. And so there's this moment where everyone's trying to figure out what they do, and they decide to go with like working class women and women of color as being like sort of their focus for this. And she says, great, let me snap up all the grannies. Basically, like that literally, like she finds these political vacuums and snaps up all these people and like basically gets her organization to fill these voids immediately. And that is like really her strength. And it's something that, again, I don't want us to learn from Schlafly, but like something that like modern political organizing can learn from is like be like, find out the holes and you need to plug it.
Yeah, find the opportunity. Who are we not speaking to?
Exactly.
Right.
And that's something that the right has excelled at in the last however many years. The one thing I want to sort of end with, because like I said, we've already gone over, but we need to end this. She does one kind of final thing in her life. And I mean, anybody who has read about her will know this, but in 2016, she says, I've got one big final fuck you to the world. And that is she endorses Donald Trump and writes a book called The Conservative Case for Trump. She literally does this right before she dies. Like her last act of her life, like one of her last few months of her life is endorsing Donald Trump for president. She literally gives us Donald Trump, because if he had not gotten her endorsement, you can't say that like he wouldn't have gotten nominated. But he needed someone who had said that they were a family values person, like a social conservative.
Right. Someone who would vouch for him in that direction because his life does not. Yeah.
Yeah, it does not reflect.
And also, I mean, like, you know, if her audience is mostly white women and it's 53%, I mean, if we could shave off a couple percentage points, it might be a completely different world we're living in.
Well, yeah. And like she, for example, spends a lot of time advocating against no-fault divorce. Like that's a big part of her platform, that she wants basically you have to prove why you should be allowed to get divorced, which ultimately either traps people in marriages or makes people lie about their partners in order to get divorced. It doesn't.
Oh, yeah. And I'm sure that, you know, spousal homicide is probably through the roof in those instances.
Absolutely.
The poison budget has gone up. And I just think that...
And if nothing else, you know what? Schlafly does help the poison lobby.
The arsenic lobby is eating right now. But I do think that, like, that's not better.
No, but she basically, because of her endorsement, she can be like, well, Trump doesn't have to be pro-abortion, because he doesn't initially even start out pro-life or anti-abortion, but he gets all these people like her to say that he's a safe dude for this, and then he gets pushed further and further on this from positions he didn't originally start out on, because he's just an insane person with no backbone. He actually literally has no conscience or backbone, but she basically like lends him the veneer of validity and of respectability that he does not have before that. And then she kicks the bucket, and now we're all left with this guy.
Right.
And like, it's, again, we can't say that he wins because of her, but like, she certainly didn't hurt him.
I certainly think that, like, she didn't hurt. Right, exactly.
You know?
Like, she could have said nothing and we could then be talking about that. But unfortunately, that's kind of her last main thing.
She could have been like, this guy's a philandering evil freak.
Right, this guy's not good for women.
Yeah. He doesn't do anything. Literally does not support any of the platforms that I have spent my whole life advocating for and running on. But instead she says, I'm going to write a book about how great he is.
Yeah.
Deuces, and then takes a slide straight to hell, basically.
Exactly. She uses her fast pass straight to hell, and that's good for her. Unreal.
And that's The end of her life.
Mm.
Bad from start to finish, basically.
Yeah.
The nice part about this episode is that I don't write about her. Like, my work as a historian is not on her, so I'm allowed to say these things because she's never going to show up in a book that I write.
Right. Yeah, exactly. She died in this podcast, and good riddance.
Yeah, we burned her at the stake. Thank God. Side note, she's also very often cited as like the inspiration or speculated to be the inspiration behind Serena Joy Waterford in Handmaid's Tale. I don't know if that commander's wife. So this person who's like sort of constantly capitulating to the aims of this patriarchal regime and getting totally screwed over by them, and then having relative power and political or public presence, which then allows her to trick herself into thinking that she's living in a way that's good or right.
Yeah, and she has some sort of gender parity personally, even though, there is a big glass ceiling to how far she can go. And
yeah, and it's still being treated horribly all the time. Schlafly is going on TV talking about all this stuff, and all the men around her like, she's so great, and then going in back rooms and being like, she's shrill, I hate her. Like,
exactly, yeah. Like, I would love less of Phyllis, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's probably a place to end this, because I too would love less of Phyllis.
Yeah, exactly. If you think we haven't beat her to death, even though she's already dead enough, unfortunately, we've run out of time. So do it in the comments.
You guys can please add your thoughts here.
Yes.
I normally have to say whether I think you made a convincing argument, but I was the one making the argument. Do you think I've made a convincing argument?
Yeah, I think you've convinced me, but I think Phyllis on her own, I mean, I think that you presented her the only way that could be presented. The reality is, like, what her life work has wrought is absolutely abhorrent, and we're dealing with the fallout to this day. So yeah, she not only did this guy suck, but like really sucked. This guy super sucked.
Yeah, really, really sucked. And like, it's so great because I am using my autonomy as a childless woman to talk about how much I'm currently childless.
Yes.
Living in sin with my partner in my house that I pay for.
Yep. Every month.
And like, I'm having a great time, I'm gonna be honest with you. And right now I'm getting paid to be mean about her. So
yeah, cheers to that.
I'm just
Eat some, Phyllis. Take that. I'm gonna stomp on the floor for good measure.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Where can people find you?
Oh, I'm everywhere on the internet, at Akilah H on Instagram. Still, unfortunately, floundering on Twitter, if you use that, at Akilah, obviously. But
I finally left it last week because people were making AI porn of me on it, and I was like, it's time to get out.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It's time to get out,
you were right. You're right. And I've been wrong forever, and I gotta leave. So don't even follow me there. Honestly, don't encourage it. But I would say what you really want to check out is my podcast from Courier Newsroom. It's called How Is This Better? If you're a podcast girly, which you would be, you're listening to this, I would say go listen to it wherever you get podcasts, Apple, Spotify. But also we make YouTube video versions of it every week. So please go subscribe to at How's This Better? Yeah, new episodes every Friday. And the second season has been a real hoot. So go check it out.
Hell yeah. And all of these things will be linked in our episode description. Okay, have a good day. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of This Guy Sucked, a member of the Multitude Podcast Collective. This episode was hosted by me, Dr. Claire Aubin, featuring special guest Akilah Hughes, and edited by Julia Shafini. All of our theme music was written and produced by the Han Solo of drum solos, Marshall Dean Williams. That's a hard one to say. The Han Solo of drum solos. If you'd like to support the show and get access to all episodes, including 2 extra episodes per month and access to our full archive of episodes, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts or to our Patreon at patreon.com/thisguysucked. See you next week.